Crypto. My name is Mir, and we will be learning about Bitcoin and other stuff that we don't know about.
Okay, what's Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, as far as I am aware, and Bitcoin is the most valuable cryptocurrency that exists today.
Bitcoin is something you have to mine. So not with the axe, sadly, but there's this really huge math problem, and you have to figure the math problem out to get a share of Bitcoin.
It was made up back in circa, 2008, I think, by an anonymous guy. We still don't know who the hell invented it, but basically it was, he invented cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin was the first one ever. And now today it's worth around $50,000 per coin, and there's only so many in existence. So yeah, it's like Bitcoin is like the gold standard, I guess, of cryptocurrency.
Okay, so now that you've explained cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin to the entire world, in today's challenge, we're going to be explaining what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is to an 8-year-old.
Fuck. Oh, man.
And now to introduce my co-host, Seth, right here.
Hey, guys.
There.
Okay, high five, Mir. Dude, that was a great intro. You did such a good job. So, Mir, So, Mir, what do you like to do, man?
I like to read comics. I like to go to Great Wolf Lodge.
Great Wolf Lodge. What kind of comics do you like to read?
Dogman.
Dogman? I don't even know about Dogman. Did you see the new Spider-Man? Not yet. Me neither. No. All the guys in the office watched it, and they've been trying really hard not to spoil it for me.
I like spoilers.
You like spoilers?
Yeah.
You're a crazy person, dude. I don't like
you.
spoilers. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very nice of you.
Of course. So you like to read comic books, you like to read Dogman, and then your mom tells me that you are kind of a martial artist, right?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
As you told us already and told the audience, we're supposed to learn a little bit about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and all this crazy stuff that everybody's talking about right now. Mm-hmm. So what do you know about Bitcoin?
That you mine it, not with an axe.
No? Not like axes like the little dwarves? No?
So there's a huge math problem. So you have to solve that math problem. Then you get a share of Bitcoin.
Okay, that is about as much as I know, I think, too. So the math problem, is it, how big is the math problem?
Hundreds of meters tall.
Hundreds of meters tall? So that's kind of, and then so you solve the math problem to get a share of Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. And then Bitcoin, what do you use it for?
Stocks.
You use it for stocks?
Yeah, so you put the money in and up or down.
It does go up and down. Bitcoin does go up and down. So Bitcoin is it's kind of like stocks. But you've heard the term cryptocurrency. You have?
Yeah.
Okay. But a cryptocurrency, you have a dollar, right? Do you get an allowance or something like that? Do you get some money?
Yeah, when I do chores.
When you do chores? Do you do chores? Are you good and do chores?
Not me. Him. That guy who's named Mir.
The guy who's named Mir, does he do lots of chores?
I guess.
You guess so? But when you do chores, or when Mir does chores, he gets $1, right?
Yeah.
And that's worth something, right?
He actually gets 25 cents.
25 cents?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to talk to your mom about that.
Oh, I like 25 cents.
You like 25 cents?
But I like dollar bills.
I was gonna say, I bet you like dollar bills more, right? And $5 bills even more than dollar bills. So a dollar is what we call currency. So a dollar, or in some countries it's called something else, like a yen, or it's called a pound when you're in Great Britain, or a Canadian dollar, and those are all worth something, right? A dollar is worth $1, and a Canadian dollar is worth $1, right? Mm-hmm. So a cryptocurrency is kind of like a dollar, but for the internet. A dollar, like I said, is currency, and then cryptocurrency is basically just currency for the internet, kind of. Yeah. It's all digital, and it all exists in the internet, basically, on something called a blockchain. Now, do you know what a blockchain is? Have you heard about it before?
No, never. Is it like those things in Mario's chain jump?
The chain jumpers? A blockchain is so normally with normal money, you ever go to the bank? Have you ever been with your mom or your dad to the bank?
Yeah.
So imagine the blockchain is kind of like a bank. it's kind of like the bank where all the crypto or all the bitcoins and all the other cryptocurrencies are stored. But instead of being like one big building where you go and there's only one guy kinda who's like in charge of it, right? Because when you go to the bank, there's like a manager, like the guy in charge, you know what I'm talking about? So you go to the bank and there's just one guy in charge and the bank controls and has all the money, right? That's where all the money is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the blockchain is kind of like lots and lots and lots of tiny banks all over the world. Kind of weird, right? Do you get it though? Like, do you know what I mean by like lots of tiny little banks all over the world?
Yeah. Whoa.
So each kind of and each of those little banks is like a computer and it's somewhere in the world. And remember we were talking about that big math problem earlier, right? So that math problem is done and like solved, right? Like you do math in class and you do your additions and subtractions and things like that.
So all of those little tiny computers form a Bitcoin stock?
Kinda, they form a Bitcoin. And what they do is they make sure that the right person owns the Bitcoin. So like if you go to the bank, you have to show your ID, right, to get money out,
But
or you
I
have to
don't
have a
have
card.
an idea.
But when you go with your mom, right? Your mom has all the money, right?
But I have a debit card.
You have a debit card?
Yeah.
What?
Put 0 money in.
Well, we gotta fix that too. Maybe the G-Video squad will come over. We'll help you with some chores. But when your mom goes, she has to usually have like a card, right?
Yeah.
And that's how the bank makes sure that that money is hers. Well, the blockchain, what it does is it solves those math problems to make sure that the person who owns the Bitcoin is the right person. You.
So why is Bitcoin called Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is called Bitcoin because honestly, a guy made it up and he just decided that's what it was going to be called. Bits are like tiny little pieces of information.
So that's why it's called Bitcoin.
Yep, and it's kind of spread out through all of those different little banks. And those little tiny banks are all computers all over the world. And those little tiny computers that are little tiny banks make sure that someone who owns a Bitcoin, when they go to move it or to take it out like you do at the ATM, they do that math to make sure that the right person is getting the money.
Wait. So, if you're so tiny, like as a mouse, how do they have a motherboard, a circuit board, a memory chip, like all of those electronics?
So, I mean, they're computers. They're just normal-sized computers. And any computer can really be set up to, like you were talking about, to mine Bitcoin, which is basically just means to solve those math problems to make sure. So any computer, so this computer we have over here, we could set it up so that it would be one of those kind of small banks.
But I thought you said tiny.
I mean, they're tiny as far as compared to like a whole big bank goes.
They're bigger than my hand.
Bigger than your hand? Bigger than, well, maybe not bigger than you. Some of them are. Some have whole rooms that are filled with computers.
Why would they need that much computers?
Because, so they
love
need that
Bitcoin?
many computers, well, because they love Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's worth money. But they need that many computers because the math problems are really, really big. Remember those problems? They're like as big as a building, right? So we were talking about that earlier. And so the more big the math problem is, the more computers and power and like stuff you need to solve the problem, right? Like if a problem's really, really big, you can't solve it all on your own, right? Sometimes you need some help, like from your mom or dad or from a teacher or from a classmate. Well, sometimes you need more than one computer. You need lots and lots of computers all working together to solve the problem.
Well, I'm good at distributive law, multiplication, and fractions, equivalents, and fractions. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not a clue.
You don't know a fraction?
The woman was too stunned to speak.
I'm not good at math. I know what multiplication is, and I can do addition, subtraction, and division. That's about it.
You don't know how to do fractions.
Oh boy, not really.
Well, are there some fraction pieces in Bitcoin? Are they related?
I mean, yeah, so you can actually own, so a fraction, if I remember right, is like a portion of a full thing, right? So like a half or a third. So when those computers solve that problem, right, they get a fraction of a Bitcoin.
Now I get it. So like you own some Bitcoin and then it says like you got a third of Bitcoin, you got a half of Bitcoin, 1/10 of Bitcoin, you got
1/1000th of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, 100th of
1/100th. And then
One-
all
one
of
one
that.
millionth.
1/1,000,000th. That's a lot. That's a tiny number, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, so each of those times those computers solve those problems, they get a fraction of Bitcoin, which is why people set up computers to do that. So because they get a little bit of Bitcoin, which is worth real money. Yes.
So, when you buy Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
does it ever like restart? So you have to keep buying more, or just?
No, so that's one of the interesting things about cryptocurrencies is there's only so many. There's usually only so many Bitcoins, and that's why the Bitcoin price has gone up so much. Is because the more people that want Bitcoin, the higher the price.
Oh,
So that's right. There's only so many. Because with dollars, there's lots and lots and lots of them. And technically, the banks, or rather the government, right, can make more money. And that drives the price down. But there's only so many Bitcoins, right? Like dirt, it's everywhere, right? There's tons of dirt all over the world. There's tons of dirt. So dirt's not very expensive, but there's not that much gold or diamonds on the earth, right? There's only a little bit. So they're much more expensive because they're rare. Same with Bitcoin. There's only so many that are ever going to exist ever. And so the more that people want it, the more expensive it becomes. One of the things that's really frustrating about money is that, like I said, there's only so many people who have a lot of it and who control it, right? And that's what we call centralized. It means that there's only a few people who have all of the power, really, when it comes to money. And those people or those things are like banks and big companies and stuff. Only one group of people kind of controlled it all. And this guy who made up Bitcoin wanted people to control the money. And that's kind of why Bitcoin exists, is so that people are in control of it as opposed to, big banks and people who are not really have everybody's best interest at heart. I agree. Round of applause for the guy.
when you solve the math problem,
Yep.
do you get a Bitcoin, or you have to pay for it and then get it?
So,
Because that's a lot of money.
it is a lot of money to get, right? So that's what we were talking about earlier. It used to be probably that you could get a whole Bitcoin when you helped solve one of those math problems. But because Bitcoin is so worth so much money now, you get fractions of Bitcoin. So you get little tiny bits of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But over time, if you continue to mine it, you add those up and you get real money. So you don't get a whole one anymore, generally speaking. But you can mine for fractions of it, and then that adds up over time.
But my question was, when you solve the math problem, do you have to pay money, or it just comes to you?
Nope, it just comes to you.
Yeah.
So the way that it works is that remember all those computers, do you know what an incentive is? Your mom gives you 25 cents for doing a chore, right? So that's your incentive, is that 25 cents. So she says, in exchange for you doing the dishes, I will give you a quarter, right? And you like that quarter. So Bitcoin is the incentive for all these people all over the world to put their computers to use to help solve those math problems. Because otherwise they would be paying money to do it, right? They have to pay for their electric bills to run their computers. But in order for them to be incentivized, or for them to want to help, they need a little bit of money, just like you. So they get a little bit of Bitcoin. Because technically, a quarter is 1/4 of a dollar, because it's 4 quarters for a dollar. So you kind of get, in a way, a very similar thing to what most of the people who mine Bitcoin get too. You do something, which is your chores, and you get a quarter. They help the blockchain solve those big math problems, and they get a little bit of Bitcoin.
So, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm sorry I said this too many times. And view our newest, best videos.
Yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Mir, it has been an absolute awesome pleasure to have you here today. One more high five before we go. There we go. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, just like Mir said. And don't forget, this is the most important part. We got to say, game it till you make it. Okay? Ready? So don't forget to game it till you make it. Bye, guys. Hey, good job, Mir. That was awesome. You did so good.